There are people who literally move in that fast, impregnate you that fast in order to have power in your life. All I saw was, oh, hallmark of love bombing and then entrapment. I saw clients being hounded about their mileage or grocery receipts or Christmas gifts. It was amazing to me how much surveillance one partner would do of another around something like this. When I first got married, and my first husband wasn't a narcissist, but he did have narcissistic traits and definitely was immature around some things. Thank goodness he had some characteristics that made him amenable to change, and so there were significant changes. But one of the first things that happened was he would get really upset over what I spent at the grocery store. He would actually ask to see the receipt and
Wow.
then to compare what was in the house against the receipt, as if somehow I don't know, like I stuck stuff in there. I don't know what he thought, but he thought something. And it hurt. It really hurt because, for one, I didn't like to have that kind of surveillance. That's what it felt like. It felt
Mhm.
like lack of trust. It also made me feel like he was seeing it as his money, not our money. And I really had the perspective that what we made, each of us made, belonged to the household, didn't belong
Mhm.
to us individually.
Mhm.
So it hurt, but I'll never forget. So he got into therapy pretty fast because we hit a roadblock that if we didn't get straightened out, I was not going to stay married to him. So he got into therapy and he apparently complained to the therapist a lot. To enough so he came home and told me this interaction he had with the therapist. The therapist said to him, "Is she that bad with money?" I mean, I think the therapist truly wanted to know. And he paused, and because this was one great thing about Brad was he was always honest.
Mhm.
So if you asked him a big question, he would think on it and then
Mhm.
compared. He was an engineer, so his
Mhm.
engineering mind would come out. And he said, "No, actually, she's really good with money." And then he said, "So what is your issue?" And that issue went away. It stopped. But it is something that I since then saw in my office where I saw clients being hounded about their mileage or grocery receipts or Christmas gifts. It was amazing to me how much surveillance one partner would do of another around something like this.
Mhm. But like food, though, money is such a sensitive area because everybody has such their own personal narratives about money and grown up
Mm,
with their own sort of stories about what money means. It's because isn't it? It's about
yeah.
resource. It's about having enough, having not enough, controlling resources, who's in charge of it. And there's something about freedom too, isn't there, with money? It feels like it's a kind of in childhood, it's the one thing kids don't have is their own real money. There's something about having money equals I get to make the decisions, I get to be free and choose.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. We didn't talk about this on the food episode, but they've done studies of people eating off other people's plates.
Wow.
So even when there's a sense of sufficiency, like I have enough, I'm not going to starve, but if you eat off my plate, or you take that from me, it activates this primitive sense of you're taking from me, you're
Yeah.
starving me, and we're very protective of that. We
Yeah.
don't like people eating off of our plates. I think the same principle is true around money.
Yeah.
There's a sense of if you take something that I'm not ready to give you, then you're threatening my survival.
Yeah. And what you were saying about Brad, though, sounds like he'd brought something into the relationship about money that he hadn't realized he'd brought in, and then was
Yes.
made very aware that he'd brought something in that actually wasn't anything to do with you at all.
Yeah, yeah, and he did tell me a lot of its early childhood stories, and one of them is that, and I can say this comfortably because both parents are deceased, is that they severely neglected him. He was the
Mm.
youngest of 4. They were born really quick to a young mom and a struggling couple who were on their own, far from family, so not supported well.
Mm.
And so he and his younger brother basically kind of raised themselves, and he would talk about how if a pizza was ordered, they'd actually get out measuring tools to make sure it was cut fairly.
Wow.
They would actually measure the
Wow.
slicing to make sure
Wow.
it was exactly half or whatever the split it was.
Wow. So that lack of trust thing towards you
Yes.
and the food, like, where's the extra food gone? Are you stashing it somewhere? Like, are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hiding stuff in the car and not bringing it in?
Or I even think I didn't think it was the food specific, it was, "What are you doing with my money?"
Okay.
I'm the one because at the time this was happening, I was going to school and he was putting me through. So I was not earning, and the deal had been when we got married. See, this is even interesting because when we met and dated, right at the very first time we started hanging out together, he said, "I want a working woman. I'm looking for a woman who's gonna wanna work." And I thought, "Great. I want you to support my freedom to work." What
Mm.
I didn't know what he was saying was, "I expect a two-income family."
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
wasn't saying, "I support women working." He was saying, "I don't ever wanna be the sole provider." And then it wasn't because he and I, like, put our money separately, we didn't. It always went into this one big jar, and then we just divvied it up based upon the need of the household. It was
Mhm.
never who got more of what. There was never that kind of discussion,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But in the early days, if I spent it, he felt like I was in his jar. With after that big revelation of, "No, she's not irresponsible, I can trust her," then became our jar.
Mhm. So what was taken out would be put back in. There was a sense of it's
Yeah.
okay. I know we're gonna move the conversation on in a second, but I had a training recently, continuing professional development training for therapists around money. And I thought it was about managing finances in private practice, and it wasn't. It was to do with clients and money and what that brings up in the room
Oh,
and just how much we carry about money in us and how
yes.
we act out in lots of ways, how we express ourselves and unconsciously express ourselves through money. And I thought it was so, so interesting.
Oh, I bet that's fascinating because I know something about you and I already because
Mhm.
we have the same issue. I see it in you and I see it in myself. I hope it's okay to call you out publicly in front of everybody because calling myself out too. We have a hard time charging our value.
Yeah. Well, you've said to me before about that 100%.
You know,
I
I was always the last in the county to raise my prices. And now I don't know if I was literally dead last, but let me tell you that I was not first. I was not the one leading the charge with raising rates in my area. I was usually follow it. I follow quite
Mhm.
slow.
Yeah. And I think it's a really common issue, particularly for therapists. And obviously, that was
Mhm.
your original kind of role, because most of us come into this with a whole load of that whole kind of wounded healer stuff. I hate
I
that
tried
term.
not to, but I know that I did. How can we not, right?
Yeah. It's really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hard to
You're
value your time financially and say, yeah, I need to earn.
money is an interesting topic because it was treated oddly in my family too.
In what
So,
way?
yeah, I know this is gonna shock, maybe even horrify some people, but my parents semi-emancipated my sisters and I. When I was 12, my other sister was 11, and my youngest was 8, and they gave us a monthly budget, and we had to buy our school needs, any special things that we wanted, any parties that we got invited to, we were expected to save with it as well and to tithe. So part of it was training, how to handle money responsibly, but it also, in a way, is a bit of emancipation that occurred with it. Like, so if we asked for something and they'd say, "Well, do you have the money for it?"
Wow.
So it was a way. So we didn't stop having a home and room and board. I didn't have to pay for room and board, but and I didn't even have to pay for my gas because I lived off of the farm's use of fuel. We had a big tank outside, and it was filled regularly for the tractors, and we were allowed to use it for transportation. But on the other hand, if something came up that was different, like maybe if I wanted a special pair of boots or something, I needed to save up and buy it myself.
Was that commonplace in the States
No,
at that time?
no.
What was the thinking behind that?
What was commonplace in the United States around the time that I was people often had, babysitting money, or,
Yeah, pocket
they
money.
might do a fundraiser to go on a trip, you might do that, but this wasn't something I would openly say to other people, like, if I went to our church does annual go to Cedar Point, which is sort of like a Six Flag, it's a theme park thing here, and it's not cheap, it's expensive trip, I would have to pay for that. That would kinda come out of my money, out of my budget.
Oh,
And then when I went to college, I was emancipated. My parents did not put me through college. I put myself through college, which was the opposite of Brad. Brad's parents put him through, and I put my own kids through. I paid for theirs, but
yeah.
no, my college was my and everything, phone, food, clothing, shampoo, all of it was my responsibility. So I was, yeah, 100% emancipated at 18.
Do you think you know how I often when we chat on the phone or we whatever, I I'm often saying to you how driven you are. Do you think that's behind that? That emancipation, that sort of having to kind of push and drive and drive and drive.
Well, the other weird thing that happened for me, and I think people suspect this, so I don't mind telling them, is that I also became independent financially 10 years ago when my late husband passed away.
Mm.
So I don't have to work. I work because I want to.
Mhm.
Um, I think my drive isn't related to money. I think my drive is more related to family that valued work.
Okay.
That, I started working.
Mm.
Well, I remember as a 5-year-old doing dishes. They
Mm.
would put a stool up and I would be on top helping my mom and grandma do
Mm.
dishes. And I
Mhm.
was expected to shuck peas,
Mhm.
prepare canned goods. We were very poor. I mean, very poor family.
Mm.
Home haircuts, sewed clothes, had a large garden. We were eating our own food. We weren't off the grid, but we weren't far from being off the
Over.
grid. We were close, pretty close to it, because it was just no funds. As a farming family, there was just no money in it at all, and my mom worked just to probably to keep the lights on, to be honest with you,
Mhm. Mhm.
because the farm has a huge overhead of electricity bills.
Yeah.
So I think literally she was trying to keep the farm was a sinkhole,
Mhm.
and my mom's work was trying to keep us from going bankrupt. That was what was happening.
Yeah. And
So I
you
think
just
work, though, was just a way to be useful, be
mm.
seen, had value,
Mhm.
but it also gives is purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
I learned to enjoy work. I do actually enjoy working.
Me too.
Mhm.
100%. I had a very different experience with money, and a bit like when we're talking about food, how meals and food prep wasn't a sensitive area for you in your abusive relationship. And I said it would have been for me and was for me. The inverse is true. My parents were very, I would say, healthy around money. They were generous. It wasn't a big deal. We didn't talk about it very much because it wasn't a big deal. If there was enough to share, it got shared. It was equal and fair and predictable. There was no, I haven't got sort of a soft area around
Mhm.
money and availability. My issue around money is asking for things from other people. I don't have a sense of lack. It's almost like I kind of expect that it'll sort of be all right when actually, no, it won't. You need to make sure it is by making sure you get what you need. Does that make sense?
It does, it does, and my issue isn't around money either, because one of the things I discovered in that poverty was that I could be content with what I had.
Mm.
I found a freedom in just being happy,
Mm.
and that if I had just we had these really cheap stereo, and then I would play my Barry Manilow songs, and I would sit between them, so I had my surround sound, and I thought, "See, this is heaven. What more do I need? I
Yeah.
don't need a Walkman. I don't need stereo. I can just sit between the speakers."
Yeah.
So I just I
The
learned to make do, and
ingediousness of children. It's brilliant.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but you did tie into something. So it wasn't around that. But for me, it was around the asking, around being perceived and feeling chosen. And yeah, that would really trip me up,
Mhm. Yeah.
and make me feel vulnerable. Was just, do I know it's back to what I was sharing before about children are to be seen and not heard. To show up and to make a ripple, that might be dangerous. So again, for me, the time having Brad upset about my receipts, I was making a ripple, see?
Yeah.
And that would have been really, really scary.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so touched when you said the good thing about Brad was he was able to change and he was also very honest. And it
Yes.
just sort of underscores the fact that with those two things, like you can go quite a long way,
You
can't you?
can.
Like with they're very basic, but without them, we're screwed. Like
Yeah,
literally.
yeah, because people hearing our stories, yeah, I've shared this before. I don't know if you're aware of it, but he did strike me. He had hit me.
You did
That
tell
was the
me.
crisis that we'd hit, is that what really happened on the honeymoon was the first time he ever punched me, and that was not on my face, it was on my arm. No, it doesn't make it any better, but thank goodness it wasn't in my face. But he punched me a few times, and that was when I called the brakes on the relationship. I said, "We're getting therapy, and if you don't," he said, "I'm not gonna go," and I'm like, "Well, if you don't go, we're over." And I meant it. We're gonna be, and he knew it. He knew I meant it. "We're gonna be over." And he went, and it was out, by the way, it was out of pocket. We had no insurance. It was expensive. It was a bill we didn't have the money for, but we went weekly for a year, and it saved our marriage. And one of the things I learned about him in that process was he took that very seriously. That once you could make it make sense to him, he would hear it and he would change. And you're right. So it isn't that necessarily somebody is toxic free. It's their willingness to self-reflect and to change course,
Mhm.
to me, that's what makes a relationship redeemable.
Yeah, because so often we don't even know why we're doing the things we're doing.
No.
And that works for pretty much everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Most of the time, these things only show up in relationship.
Yeah,
That's the first time you kind of discover, actually, I've got a bit of a thing about, I don't know, my side of the bed, or I didn't know that. Now I know it. It's a thing.
right,
It bugs me, or
right,
whatever,
right.
you know.
Yeah, it is interesting because I know a lot of people want to know, like, well, what things, I mean, we talk about all the time, red flags, as if red flags are the it. No, they're not.
No.
Red flags is just one piece of the big information and a lot of other pieces that you need. And to me, it's not whether I was I don't know we're way off the target today, which is fine. But one of the things I got to thinking about recently is what people end relationships over. I had a guy and he was very serious. He wanted to get married. It was one of those guys. He was ready. I mean, ready. And all he needed was the right woman to slot in. And I could tell he was going to slot me in. And I wasn't ready to be slotted in. But he would do this thing where he would purse his lips and then because this is in college, so I got to eat with him in the dorm. Purse his lips and hang a spoon on it while we were eating. I'm like, I just thought, I am not sitting across that the rest of my life, having someone do that.
You could see what the future had for
I
you.
couldn't, it's like, and it was that petty. I'm not having somebody hang spoons on their lips while we eat at the dinner table.
Yeah.
But
But I love that because I think one of the things that I struggle with on the internet, you mentioned the red flags thing. I think the internet's doing a disservice, unintentionally maybe, by talking about it as if it's individual elements or things that you can know, rather than all of us, myself included, focusing on the skills that you need to be able to handle the real life uncertainties of any relationship, so that you're adapting to what's happening rather than
yeah,
standing back, assessing something on a blank sheet of paper, going in with a plan, because that just isn't how life works. It's like it's an emergent thing, isn't it?
yes,
It
yeah, it is.
emerges within that context, which, you were
Yeah,
just
yeah.
talking about.
Have you heard? You probably have not because you're probably not on social media. And I don't know it super well. I've only known it because people are talking about it. Otherwise, I
Okay.
wouldn't know this drama. Her name is Wizard Liz.
Nope.
And apparently, Wizard Liz, and I don't know what her main content is, but she starts sharing of a journey about meeting the perfect guy,
Oh, no.
falling in love really super fast, and with I think within a couple, I don't know, just super. Everything was way too fast, and they moved in really fast, and now she's expecting a baby, and it's all gone south,
Okay.
and she's already gotten into trouble because she's hit him, and they're going to court because there's been abuse on both sides. And so there was this again, somebody had an opinion. It was a man. I thought that was to me, this was kind of a male perspective. And so that was like, yeah, that's why it tracks. But one of the things he said, and I actually wrote a comment. I was very disturbed by his take. It was an interesting take. He was trying to be thoughtful. I appreciate that. But what he was saying was she claimed she manifested a dream relationship. And now, of course, it's not a dream relationship, it's a nightmare. And then he said, no, she didn't manifest it, is that he used language that was really very specific. I mean, I was thinking about Jenny Young talking about rhetorical, context and
Devices.
words and how words have
Yeah.
meaning. And the
Yeah.
way he was kind of labeling it was that she sort of called this in, or was transactional. She wanted something. Oh yeah, that's what it was. She wanted power and influence, and he provided that for her. And that she asked for this, and that whatever our deepest unmet needs are, we'll call that into our life. And that's what she's done. And my thought was, okay, yeah, there's a measure of truth there. I'm not saying there wasn't, but I am also saying this man was predatory and moved in on her.
Mhm.
By
Yeah.
the way, she's a huge account. So
Mhm.
she's a massive, I think she's in the millions.
Mhm.
So she's not a nobody. She's a big somebody when it comes to TikTok. And who can't not know that? It's not hard to like go out there and figure that out. And there are people who literally move in that fast, impregnate you that fast in order to have power in your life, you know? All I saw was, oh, hallmark of love bombing and then entrapment. That's what
Yeah.
I saw when I looked at her story.
Yeah.
And yet we want to blame her for this naivete around hoping she manifested love. No, that's called idealization.
Yeah.
So
naivety, maybe.
Yeah,
I
exactly. And
I heard
I've been there. She's,
Yeah, I have. I
yeah.
heard someone talking yesterday. I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, and he talked about a retrospectoscope. And I thought, I love that idea that every time we look at this stuff retrospectively from the outside, everybody always knows what the problem was, who was doing. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah,
like,
it does.
but when you're in it, you're in it, and and you're coming from where you're coming from with
It's
your own
right.
life history, and you don't read minds. So you don't know what that other person's agenda is because it emerges within the context of the relationship based on the two of them interacting.
Yes, yes. And that's the other thing he was doing. He was deconstructing it in a mechanistic way, calling out all the red flags as if she was idiot for not seeing them. Like, who says I love you on the second? I mean, all this thing. Like, yeah, okay, that's kind of rare. Doesn't happen a lot. It is suspect when it does. It could be real, might not be real. You don't really know the context of the relationship. You don't know, they may have been pen pals for 2 years,
Mm.
and then finally met up and it was everything they thought it would. I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
amazing how we want to distill everything down into these simple things. If you see this, then run. No,
Yeah,
maybe not.
yeah.
It does like comes back to the bigger picture. Does the person have the capacity for self-reflection? Does the person have the capacity to change
Mhm,
authentically without
mhm.
being coerced into the change? Do they have the empathy to be aware of what it feels like to be you? Can they accurately see reality for what it really is, which is
Mhm.
hard for any of us to do?
Yeah. I watched a clip of you said I don't watch much social media, and I don't, but I watched a clip yesterday, and this girl, have you seen it? The girl had a jar, and she said she has a no second chances rule at the beginning of dating. And I thought, oh, this sounds interesting, one of these rules. And she had this jar, and she goes, it goes like this. She's got an empty jar, and she said, at the beginning of the relationship, because this jar is going to get filled up over time with like cotton buds and paper clips and I don't know, stamps and marbles, bits and bobs of all sorts. And every time something nice happens within that relationship, something goes in the jar. And every time something that's not nice happens, we have to take something out of the jar. At the beginning of the relationship, there's nothing to take out of the jar. So you don't get any second chances. You only get second chances when the jar is kind of filling up, because then there's enough in the jar to show you that all of these lovely things have happened over time, represented by the marble or the cotton ball. And then we can afford to take something out. We don't take something out at the beginning. And I think that's what's so important is we need to see it as an empty jar, that we don't know the person until that jar's started to get pretty full.
Yeah.
It really needs quite a few things in it before we can even start to assess who somebody is. And in the meantime, it has to be about, am I flexible enough to stay alive within this and responding to what's actually happening within me?
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of something Dr. Daniel Jones said in my recent interview with him, which will probably air after this. But he said, between a lot of red flags on the first date and a boring person, I'll give the second date to the boring person. Back to the idea there's nothing in the jar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if they're already taking out of it,
You can't
you
take from
can't go
what isn't
you
there.
shouldn't
There's
start from a negative point in
You
a
can't.
relationship.
You absolutely can't. Something needs to be in there to start with. I thought that was a great analogy. I love
I love
that.
that. I love that. I think what happens to me when I get into the relationship, I want closure so badly. I want to know, is this it or not it? I want a decision that I don't hold it in suspense, the
Mhm.
question in suspense, to allow it to unfold for me to know over time, is this
Yes.
it? And so I lock in a decision really too fast. And I don't know if that's unique to me or if we all do that. I just know that's something that I realize I do. And I have to actively work against it these days.
Yeah. I think I definitely do that. I think a lot of us do that. I think the internet supports that. Holding tension in a relationship is really difficult to do. It's hard work.
Mhm.
Like holding you know this therapeutically,
It does.
clinically, it's really hard work to hold tension.
It's called ambivalence.
It costs a lot on the nervous system, on the psyche,
Yeah.
and it requires, I don't just mean maturity as if you can't do it, you're not mature. All I mean is to be constantly there is really hard. And
Yeah.
I think relationships, if well, they certainly are mine, soft spot, that's the last place I want to hold ambivalence or tension. because
Yeah.
that's like my weakest area. Like, can we just nail this down? Can we just sign? Yeah, we're dating now. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Sign. Tick. Good. We can move on.
Yeah, it is really, really hard to do that. You're right. It's costly. Yes, more maturity as a person helps you be able to
Yeah.
spend the cost
Yeah.
and to think flexibly. It also requires flexible thinking. And but it's something we grow into as we have more resources. We learn to do that. But it's so hard
Mhm.
because I want an answer so badly. I want to know, give it up or let's commit.
Yeah.
I'm just desperate to know that.
Yeah. And that's why the internet is loved by everybody, because it will tell you, if this, then do that. If that, then do this.
Yes.
And people go, okay, great. Now I don't have to sit with that tension. I can just do that. Because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guy on the video just told me to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's even why people wanna know, is my partner a narcissist? That's one of the big questions, is because if I can label that, then I can sort this out, then I know what I've got, and then I know what my next decision should be. No, it's never that simple. Even this idea of just, why did you stay too long? Tell me, when did any relationship ever, even the best relationship, easily end?
Yeah.
I think we're so naive about these things. We
Mhm.
act like things are just, it's this or that. No, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the best things about therapeutic training is you really learn how to be curious. It's a phrase we overuse in the profession.
Yeah.
But I've learned how to be curious and stay curious and not need to find out. In our friendship, I can hold well, I haven't heard from Kerry for a couple of days. Hope she's okay. I'm not going to chase. She's busy. I don't need to seek that reassurance. Whereas a few years ago, I'd have been like, oh my God, what does that mean? What does that mean? I need to find out.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have too. I was very anxious in the beginning about relationships
Mm.
and would have any distance. These days, I assume the best unless there's information that suggests it's not.
That's really good though.
Yeah. So when I don't hear from you, it's like, oh, she's really busy, or
Yeah.
she's seeing her father, or,
Yeah.
life's got, she's dealing with life. I
Yeah.
don't assume anything else other than that.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Let's jump over to the podcast and talk about how to move to ambivalence, how to learn how to develop that capacity, and why it's better than the black and white thinking. I think that's a really important thing, because regardless of where you are, is this a good relationship or a bad relationship? Am I healing or am I not healing? Did I meet a narcissist or did I not? Or is this, is there red flags or isn't? I think this is what gets us into trouble, is this, for one, it makes us judgmental, but it forces us into decisions that maybe are not actually accurate. Maybe they're missing something,
Mhm.
or they're happening too quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thank you for this. We were talking about receipts, but we went into, I think I'm going to have to figure out the new label for this, but
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled that we went here, because I think this is even more important subject, honestly, than
Brilliant.
just why people watch receipts.
Yeah,
But
we skipped receipts altogether.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode. Are you following me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube? You can find me at Kerry McAvoy, PhD. Or you can learn more about me and my resources, such as the Toxic Free Relationship Club, at kerrymcavoyphd.com. And I'll see you back here next week.